This is your reality check.
Hi everyone, and welcome to The Reality Check, the Canadian show that explores a wide range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. I am your host, Darren McKee, and with me, as usual, is Adam Gardner.
What's up, Cuboids?
We have a great show for you today, something a little different, more about the curiosity side of things, and there's a bit of science, but we're going to talk about the new movie, Superman. We got a listener request of sorts from Ellie asking, hey, you talk about books and I like that, but what did you think about the new movie? And that's all I needed as an excuse to talk about Superman. So we're going to try something also a bit different, which is Adam and I usually record this, and then Adam spends a lot of time editing it to make us sound more intelligent than we actually are. But we're going to treat it sort of like a normal podcast that you might otherwise hear, where we're going to riff on the movie without too much editing, kind of treating it like a live show.
Thanks for listening live, listeners.
Thanks. Hopefully you're alive when you listen to this. Otherwise, what we're going to do about that. So the new movie Superman, first of all, this is going to have a ton of spoilers. Just so you know. If you haven't seen the movie, please go see the movie first before you listen to this. Or if you never plan to see the movie, I mean, you can lead your own life. You can listen to it or not. But I hate spoilers, and we're going to spoil all sorts of things.
Some people, there's actually research that says that spoilers, whether they do or don't affect it. John Abrams was going to do a segment on it, but I think maybe that's off the table at this point.
You think he's spoiled? That segment is spoiled now?
I think he's just not going to do a segment.
Nah, that sounds plausible. That sounds plausible. Well, there are people who very much watch the previews, and those have lots of spoilers. Yeah. Also, in the theater that I went, just beforehand, yes, there are advertisements before the movie starts, and then, of course, there's the previews once the movie starts. But there was also this kind of behind-the-scenes look at Superman before, and I'm like, oh, no. So I was going to go to the bathroom anyway, but I have to leave. I can't watch this, because I'm the person who hates spoilers, so I avoided previews at all. Okay, so some sort of format for the show, which is largely us just having no format whatsoever. But first, going to briefly talk about how the box office receipts of Superman movies, how it's difficult to compare box office receipts, the notion of what art is and if there can be any objective art, objective sort of opinions on art, and then we're just going to talk about the movie.
Yep.
So first, how is the box office doing? Well, at the moment, Superman, the recent movie, has done pretty well. It's in the over 500 million, maybe even close to 600 million, and that is seen as a success at the moment. It's always tricky to see what counts as a success, because if a movie, say, costs 200 million, which this was at least cost $200 million, often the prints and advertising, or the P&A, is another 200 million. And so you'd think, well, they'd only have to make 400 million, right? But the theaters don't give all the money to the studios. So they have to split it some ways with the theaters, with the distributor, and so on. So it's not that all that money goes up, meaning those numbers can't just equally match. For those who happen to be curious, Man of Steel was at 670 million after its run, but with some inflation adjustment, which is necessary in some way, it's well over 800 million.
Wow.
And then if you really go back to the 1978 Superman, which made 300 million.
Wow.
1.4 billion in today's money.
Yeah, that's significant.
Right. Now, then the question is that fair to compare? And I think it is interesting to compare, but not easy to do. And I wouldn't be fully reliant on these numbers, mainly because things have changed in numerous ways. You could try to look at like price per ticket and then how many people bought a ticket. That is one good way to look at it, because otherwise, like, well, wait a minute, with IMAX and everything else, they can charge more. So it's not that more people are seeing it, but, sometimes people are willing to pay more for a certain viewing experience, which does indicate they want to see it more. So that kind of discounts, the numbers of tickets sold. I think the other main thing is the rise of streaming, which has changed the sort of theatrical experience. And then also superhero fatigue in general. And then international sales, meaning China mainly, being less interested in certain American movies, superhero movies, and then perhaps Superman itself, who is very much seen as an American icon.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of conversations about why certain movies, especially superhero movies, are doing less well. And I think one basic thing is really just like people are seeing less movies than they were over 5 years ago. Pandemic, there was a drop, and it went hand in hand with streaming. Everyone got used to staying home. So I think that's a big factor. I see a lot of movies, probably see 5-6 movies a month in theaters, and they're not full like they used to be. And the theaters that are there, it's like, oh, well, we changed it so it's all recliner seatings, way less seats per theater and things like that. And if you go further back, definitely in 1978, movies were playing on less screens than they were when Man of Steel came out. And then today, different, you know?
Of course. And there was less choice. Like, if you go far enough back, you're like, it's the only movie playing.
Yeah.
So you can go see it. As one person said, one of the early movies, was it Gone with the Wind? I'm not sure. It was in theaters for decades. Oh, well, okay. That's a long theatrical run. Yeah, they didn't have VHS back then. So I think that's something to keep in mind, that what counts as success is interesting in its own right. I mean, the studio said it counts, so I guess that counts enough. But there is a world where it's not going to make as much money as Man of Steel, but people say it's more successful in certain ways. Because certainly Rotten Tomatoes likes it more. That is objectively true in terms of Rotten Tomatoes facts.
And there's also Hollywood accounting. So even when they say, oh, this movie lost money, what is that really made? Like, everyone made money up and down the line, but the movie didn't make money for the company on some weird accounting bottom line.
Yes, some less powerful person lost money and everyone else made tons. Yeah, it's pretty sketchy. Okay, so the next is there such a thing as objectively good art? My opinion is no. That people can like art for all sorts of reasons. It is subjective. If someone likes A more than B, that's it. That's really all there is to say. And even if something I find like personally repulsive, if someone else likes it, then that means they like it. There's really not much more to say here. Now, you could say, is something more popular? By definition, yes, more people liking it would make it more popular. I just don't think popular means good.
Yep. Yeah, it is appealing. It has mass appeal. Are you likely to like it? You can make all sorts of metrics like that. But yeah, I would say there is no objective measure of quality when it comes to art. I totally agree with that.
And that includes even if someone is like extensively knowledgeable about the thing. Because, like picture like two famous directors, they're not going to enjoy each movie the exact same way. And so that was just a sort of a segue to the fact that these are going to be our opinions about the Superman movie, which, carry as much weight as you want them to. There's no godly insight here, more just people who are, movie watchers. And I'm also a huge Superman fan, but that doesn't, again, give me extra credibility. I mean, maybe it's useful for sharing analysis, but not necessarily overall value and worth, right?
Yeah, I'd say the weight of a Superman fan's opinion on a movie carries something. So definitely, like, you're a bigger Superman fan than I am, but still, it's all going to be subjective. Are you a big Superman fan? Then you might like it as much as Darren.
Yes,
there's things like that you can factor into it.
Yeah. So if listeners, based on what Adam said, my opinion is like 60% weight to his 40%, at least, maybe even 3/4.
It's 100%.
Okay, so Superman movie came out recently. I think it was July 12th or so. This is David Cornsweet. It's directed by James Gunn, and I liked it. I thought it was generally great. I'm happy it exists. I thought it was light and colorful and hopeful. And I did think it's kind of a bit more aimed at kids. But I think, in a way, almost all superheroes movies are ideally aimed at a younger audience. But my overall assessment in a concise way is it was fun and it was good. It was a bit jam-packed, but I still liked it and I'm happy it exists.
Yeah, I agree. I enjoyed the movie. I saw it just a couple days ago. I think there are certain superheroes that benefit more from having a certain kind of light type of movie. Fantastic Four and Superman are two of those, and I think that it hit the tone in that way. That something like Man of Steel was a little more gritty, maybe darker, maybe something that I'm more interested in, but I kind of appreciate that this movie, the way it was made, suited the character. As for it being busy, I was concerned about that with Justice Squad and all these other characters, but I didn't think it was too overloaded. That's often a problem with superhero movies. Just like, there's too many villains, there's too many other heroes, there's too many characters, and you don't get time to focus on them. But we did get a chance to focus on on Clark Kent, Superman, and characters that were there.
It's good stuff. Adam and I were talking before we recorded this, and the attempt will be that we'll talk about what we liked about the movie first, even though we can both go on extensively about critiques, which we will. But we don't want to give the impression that just because we're criticizing that means we didn't like it. Just sometimes, if you're very logically minded and you're watching something fantastical like a Superman movie, it comes across like, that doesn't make any sense. Yep. None of it makes any sense. So that's a larger point. And then, yes, it's going to be very tempting to compare it to Man of Steel and other Superman movies, which we will, but hopefully also after, and just giving Superman its space. So, just some other thoughts in general, sort of running down somewhat sequentially. Superman was very concerned about the well-being of his enemies. This came through loud and clear. There were several different examples. I thought this was great to see. This isn't usually in other movies. I can't think of that many overt cases where he is, again, overtly concerned about saving a creature that's trying to harm the city, or even, someone who's really attacking him, trying to kill him, saying like, there's still hope for you. I can help you. And I just thought that was an excellent depiction.
Yeah, Sailor Moon does that. Not just always talking about Sailor Moon, but no, it is something that you often measure the power of a hero by how much damage they can do or whatever. But Superman's strength really is in sort of his morality, and he's trying to do the best thing. And I watch a Godzilla movie and I'm always like, oh, I feel bad for Godzilla, and I cry for Godzilla when Godzilla dies. And then Superman was kind of taking that part in this movie, like, oh, I'm trying to, we want to get him out of here. We want to study him. We want to try to save him. We want to help everybody. For some heroes, that's not realistic, but for Superman, that's like a core part of his being.
Yes. And even the kind of the message of kindness and hope, certainly, and here's a data point, like so many people said they felt more hopeful, that they wanted to be better versions of themselves after seeing it. That's a fantastic event or consequence. Mm-hmm. And even the idea of like kindness as punk rock, like, oh, maybe now we're in a world where the countercultural move is to be more kind, is to be more almost naively hopeful, optimistic, and kind. And I thought that was a cute thing to put out into the culture.
It's a funny way to say it, because I definitely kind of have this impression that the counterculture became the culture sort of in the 90s. And now we're living in a time where like the mainstream culture has aspects of what was countercultural in sort of the punk era, and now what becomes countercultural to that culture, it becomes, it's just odd. But
are we getting like truly postmodern stuff where there is no culture, or everything's fully disintegrated and deconstructed? I liked Lois in this version. Like, I thought their chemistry was better. In the broad sense compared to other Loises. I mean, it's hard not to go back to like 1978, but sure. I saw that as a child, right? And this is, I'll bring that in here, I guess, is that I do think the ideal enjoyment for a superhero movie, especially of Superman type, because it is so unrealistic, is in childhood. Because you can't really differentiate fact and fiction before like the ages of 6 or 7. And so if you see it before then, like, yeah, he could fly. What? Yeah, that makes sense. Like, you just don't question it. It just seems reasonable. Yeah. And one's got to be wary of like internal analyses about why one feels a certain way. But when I think of Superman, the fact that he can do all these, let's be honest, ridiculous things that they explicitly say it's not magic, but like it's de facto magic, right? He has all these powers. How does it work? None of it really makes any sense. And yet it makes sense to me, like on a visceral level, not on an intellectual level. But if I see Thor flying with his hammer, like, well, that makes no sense at all. Well, what are you going to do, right? Because I didn't see enough Thor stuff when I was 5. I'm not saying that's a direct line, but there's a bit of that going on where sometimes things make a bit more sense, and it just fits into your realm of suspension of disbelief than other things.
Yeah, Superman. It's fair to say that it's a character that's been around in my life as long as, so the first movie was 1978. I was born in 78, so I watched it as a child. We had a Superman poster in my room that I think my mother liked more than we did, But yeah, it's you don't question that. That's just like one of your basic superheroes, and those powers just make sense, I guess, to your world. That's a funny way of saying it.
Yeah. And so I think this relates to a larger conversation. Well, maybe we can have it now or not. Like, just, there is no, again, objective truth about what counts as realistic, or what fits under suspension of disbelief, or what doesn't have to be analyzed even though it makes no sense, versus what should be analyzed even though it makes sense. It makes no sense. And so there's numerous times, I mean, any superhero movie, especially Superman movies, like so many things just don't make any sense. And there's usually a world, again, this is what everyone sort of buys into. You show me a fictional world with some rules, and then I won't object as long as you play by the rules you've provided. Yeah. Like, he has these powers, he can do these things, then you kind of want it to be consistent within that world. And then if there's violations or seem to be violations within that world, that's when there seems like, that doesn't quite add up. And so there is a world where like, okay, yeah, I'll accept the fantastical, but at the same time, it has to be somewhat linear and coherent within that world. Otherwise, like, anything goes and there's no plot and nothing means anything. And so, but I just want to highlight that any opinion like, well, this doesn't make sense, well, you could say that about some other part that I think is fine, right? Or someone like, yeah, but this does make sense to me. And this even goes to, was that a convincing actor? Like, did that person portray, this is not Superman, but any actor, like, yeah, they were convincing. And someone says, no, they weren't. You're like, well, that's just it. It was for you and it wasn't for you. Yeah. And like, whether that makes sense, it really is kind of like a personal choice. Like, usually we're more, sciencey. That's not what this is. This is really subjective. And if you think it's reasonable, Superman can fly, but he can't do something else, then that's fine. And if I think it's this, then it's that. And there's really, I think, underlying a lot of arguments on the internet are this exact thing. You have a subjective preference, which is a little bit different than someone else's, even though you're both debating over implausible, unrealistic things.
Sure. Yeah, sometimes it's things like, I want the character actions to make sense, even though I don't care about the science because it's science fiction or it's superhero or whatever. But in this, it's more like, I accept Superman's powers, but then if you're getting outside of that, maybe I'm going to question the pocket dimension or the black hole or the the little things like that. So, or sometimes it's the opposite. Maybe I'm fine with characters not being realistic because characters are always not normal in movies.
That's true.
Whereas I'm going to nitpick the science.
That's true. Almost all people speak better than they do in movies than in reality.
Yeah.
No ums and ahs. We're not really giving a summary of the movie, so that's still what's going to happen because I think that's too much work. Yeah. But for those inclined, I guess you could look up a summary if you still intend to listen but not watch the movie. Back to the Lois thing, I did think they had better chemistry. I thought the relationship was a little odd. So Superman's now been around for 3 years. In theory, they were told they've been dating a few months. 3, exactly. And it's not smooth yet. They're not fully together. They're not fully in love. And this is probably like realistic. Again, this is plausible, but because he's Superman, I was like, you should be enamored by this person. I'm like not defensive on his behalf, but like even like there could be like, he's amazing. He's the most incredible being I've ever, but at the same time, I've got commitment issues. Like if Lois said that, then I'm like, all right, I get it. Cause you're, a hardworking lady reporter and that's your part of your identity. And, reporters often sacrifice for this and that. And, it's part of who the character is. But the character for me is also someone who like almost loves him from first sight, right? And I do appreciate this is a godlike person, and maybe you warm up to him, which would be more reasonable, right? There's a Metropolitan Man, rationalist fan fiction, which I really like, and Lois was fearful of Superman, which is also a reasonable interpretation. And like, if it was real, if this person's that powerful, that possibly dangerous, like, maybe someone would be scared. They're not just going to fall in love right away. But in this world of light and happy, like, what? Just give the guy a break. You don't love him more? Come on. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I did find Lois was a bit, I don't know if rude's the right word, but she did kind of challenge Superman a bit. And I find there's like a trend in modern movies where that happens a lot. Like that was kind of one of the criticisms of Dune 2. For example, like it's fine that people aren't fully 100% likable. 100%. That people aren't fully likable, but you need to also establish like the reason for which that attraction even exists in the first place. Right. But Lois is always a bit rude to Clark in all versions, I feel. But she's not really rude to Superman, right? And that's a bit of the dynamic, but maybe there's a little more to it than that. But
she is rude to Clark before she knows he's Superman.
Yes.
And then this one, there is some playful teasing, which I did like. Because I even, asked some friends about this, like, is it immoral for Clark Kent to write interviews like with Superman? And I'm like, I think it is. It's, come to think of it, that's actually a pretty unethical thing to do. Yeah. And it's just like, it's so sketchy. It's so problematic. And yet it's part of the fun conceit from, something from 1938. Yeah. Right.
But I think Lois is a character, at least in the various continuities I've seen, and I've probably not seen as many as you, Darren, but I've watched a few. She does kind of have that kind of edge to her,
ballbuster
that right? I think can be attractive in a certain sense.
Oh yes.
Not to everybody, but
yes. And I think, by the way, it was very important to have that longer scene in the middle, which James Gunn's talked about being very atypical, like this 8 to 10 minute just dialogue based scene, which was a risk because usually there's more going on in sort of called a superhero action movie. But in that particular scene, this is where they're pretending to have an interview and she's grilling him or pretending to grill him. And and this is where a mild criticism here, where I think it's a good scene and I think it highlights what they're trying to show, that she's appropriately asking the question someone else would ask. Yes. And he is not prepared, even though he says he is. Yep. And then he gets a bit defensive and he's a bit contradictory, and that also shows he's a bit naive. But he's also like wonderfully hopeful and positive because people were going to die. Like that's clearly it. People were going to die. That said, like, he doesn't know how the technology works. He's like, how do you shut this thing off? Like, he just seemed a bit bumbling. Like, Clark can be bumbling because he doesn't know things. But Superman, to me, is supposed to be super competent. And because he's super capable, like, in all domains, like, you couldn't figure out how to work a tape recorder. Like, you are a reporter. Like, you've probably done interviews. So you know how it goes. And now you're suddenly, like, unaware of the game that has to be played. That seems weird. Then also, like, there hasn't been a war in 3 years that he's intervened in. This is one of those suspension of disbelief things. Like, oh, this is the first time he's had to intervene. Okay, sure. And like, he really hasn't thought at all about the implications of this or whether he is like, again, above the law in some way. And so that just seemed a bit, that's not the Superman I want. If it was like, I don't know, year one of Superman, that makes sense. He's 3 years in, though. It seemed very odd that he would not be ready for these types of things. Although, again, it makes a great scene. I just thought, that's not quite my version of a competent, understanding Superman.
I always find scenes like that very interesting. I'm a big fan of like kind of let's kind of poke under the hood of this aspect of superhero world, right? Like, is it really ethical for there to be vigilantes? So Civil War, the Marvel movie, did the same thing. It kind of asks the question, like, is it okay for these superheroes to go and intervene in, international disputes, which is basically what Superman's being grilled about here. And I think from a real world point of view, it is absolutely inappropriate. This is why like superheroes don't really exist and vigilantes shouldn't really exist. And if there were superheroes, it would be really terrible if they interfered in international events because like the morality of those people is questionable. Of course, this movie is a work of fiction. Superman is a paragon of virtue. All of his decisions are good. He doesn't do anything that would hurt anyone unnecessarily. And so it kind of works, but don't ask the question if you don't really want people to take that to its conclusion, right?
Yes, it's almost like highlighting a thing that's best left unsaid.
Yes.
While trying to be, I don't know, more realistic. I said more critical. I think James Gunn did say, like, what if it was real? What if it's real? And I thought, well, what an interesting mantra that he communicated, because going back to Richard Donner from 1978, verisimilitude, which is like the realism of things, was what he was striving for. But of course, as other people pointed out, the characters are supposed to act in mostly realistic ways, but there's no verisimilitude in the Superman 1978. Like, he flies around the earth and somehow returns back time. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever, right? There's numerous other things which of course don't make sense. Yep. And then Zack Snyder, and in my opinion, really did the what if this was real?
Oh, yeah.
And was hated for it. Not by everyone, but by many. We'll come back to Man of Steel another time, but his main thing is like, what if it's real? And that's one interpretation, and this is supposed to be another one, like, what if it's real? And again, this can work for different strokes for different folks. So there's that. The dog is a big part of this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I like cats more than dogs. I like some dogs. I think the dog could have been a little less annoying, and the movie would not have suffered. Meaning, you can have a dog be cutesy and annoying, and this dog was almost all annoying.
Yeah, you're right. He wasn't just rambunctious. He was like actively hostile towards anything that Superman was trying to do. And I know it's based on James Gunn's dog, who was annoying or is annoying, right? It's actually like a scan of the dog, so it looks like the dog. Oh,
and
that's cool.
And it's nice that it is Supergirl's dog, right? Because like the dog, he doesn't say my dog, he's like the dog.
Yeah, right? I didn't understand that until the end.
Right, and it shows like a tolerance and a foster thing. Like, yeah, but like give me like literally puppy dog eyes once, and like this dog's annoying. Like it's
again, you need to establish the affection before challenging the strength of that relationship.
And there's a cutesy animal which kids, I assume, will respond to because they won't necessarily probably pick up on the annoying stuff versus a playfulness of
they
a
don't
dog.
have to pick up.
Well, literally, super poop. We didn't talk about that. So, I mean, I think I get it, and I understand why people would love the dog. I like the dog. I probably would like a 20% nicer version of Crypto if I had to say something. Also, in one of the earlier edits, because nowadays when they make a movie, they show it to test audiences, and then they literally cut things or add things based on the reactions.
Oh.
There was a scene where the dog got punched in the face.
Oh.
And people did not like that, so that was just...
So they took it out.
They took it out. Yep. Yeah.
I would have not. Well, I would have not liked whatever character did that.
Well, of course.
It was a villain.
Well, of course it was. The villains invade the Fortress of Solitude, and there's a big fight, and of course the dog is attacked, but never in a way that's too bad to watch, right?
They just throw nanites at it.
Of course. And like, this is a family-friendly movie. You don't need a dog getting punched in the face. By the way, not similarly, but whether Superman should save the squirrel or not was apparently very divisive. So a lot of people hated it and a lot of people loved it. And they chose to keep it in.
Cute.
Right. And so there's a scene where Superman is saving various people and he really speeds away and rushes to save a squirrel, which was super cute. I mean, my again, the literal like, well, wasn't there maybe more people he should have been saving at the same time instead of this one squirrel? But it does show his character where he wants to save everyone.
Yeah. And it's like, certain superheroes and certain kinds of movies are doing the mental calculus about the value of doing this work versus whatever. That's not Superman, or at least that's not this Superman.
Right.
This Superman is striving to do the best thing. And the movie is not presenting like contrived scenarios to force him to do a bad thing like Zack Snyder would like to do, for example.
Well, so, and this is, I mean, we're going to save this later, but might as well get into it now, that my thought is, and this is that I want again, so I'm happy this version exists.
Yes.
I don't think it shouldn't. That's a key factor here, right? I am a bit more inclined to the Man of Steel version, but that's because like I got my childhood 1978 movie.
Yeah.
And then I got one that's a bit more for adults.
Yeah.
And especially like Batman vs. Superman, the director's cut, it's R-rated. Like there's a reason it's adult and so on. It's like, so this one, there should be one more for all audiences, a younger audience. I want more people to be fan of Superman, and something darker. You're not necessarily going to show it to an 8-year-old. You just wouldn't. Well, this one, it's great.
Show Batman vs. Superman to my kids and I
of course you
watch movies all the time.
Right, exactly. And so like, okay, again, different strokes, it should exist. But then I'm thinking like, oh, I want both to exist, but I can't help now being an old man myself. It's like, well, everyone's making choices all the time. And even though there's a world where one can sort of imagine Superman just saving everyone and not doing that calculus, if you think about day to day, he's living and he's saving people. And he knows, because he can literally hear them screaming, that there's people suffering and you're making choices all the time.
Yep.
That this is sort of like what world are we in? Are we in a world where Superman can hear people screaming and he ignores it, which seems like it would be antithetical to the character? Or somehow he just doesn't know they're suffering? Because the idea is Superman saves everyone, but of course he can't save everyone. And every time he's Clark or just hanging out or not saving people, someone's suffering somewhere. And I think that's a hard truth about the world, which I think is literally incongruous with the character. Like it does not, these things do not go together, but I'm a bit more sympathetic to acknowledge that, but well, this is the world we're in. Like even a fantastical world, like, you know, it's not there's only two problems or one problem at once. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, they do have that funny scene where basically, you know, Clark and Lois are having a bit of a conversation.
Yes.
And there's a big fight going on in the background. She's like, shouldn't you be taking care of this? Justice Gang's got it. So at least he's kind of acknowledging like, that's not really my problem right now.
Yes.
And it is being taken care of. So he can kind of unplug at some point. You know?
Yes. By the way, listener, I was trying to sort of bifurcate this conversation of talking about the positives and then negatives, but it can't help but blend these things. So since you said that scene, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Sure.
Only because, like, again, what they were talking about was important. The playfulness was also interesting.
Yes.
But I think one undercuts the other. And this is a general, you know, kind of, if it's a movie for everyone, they don't like to sit in, I will call it sadness, or in my opinion, like more emotional depth long. There should be a joke that falls, especially in other superhero movies, like, oh, a moment of bad joke. A joke. Like we can't have the audience experience something bad. No, not a joke. Right. And like at the beginning, I mean, so I just thought, well, they could have had a serious conversation without a playful fight in the background. And it would have had far more emotional weight. Sure. And I would have liked that. In terms of Superman making decisions, he literally calls in the Justice Gang to go help stop that war because he can't. Right? This is so he understands that. But this is also Superman, well, he doesn't kill people, supposedly. We'll just run with that for the moment.
This version doesn't.
This version doesn't. Although, again, so we're bifurcating things all over the place. So he sends the Justice Gang, who does kill people. Right? Like Hawkgirl openly murders that guy. Like, clearly,
that was questionable.
And then the guy Gardner, like the way he's using his lantern powers, he's not concerned at all about the well-being of these troops. And so you're thinking like, okay, so in my world, this Superman would not be comfortable sending people who would kill people to protect people. Like he'd at least have some sort of, hey, can you try not to kill anyone while you're saving the people? And that's where I said, what is the constructed world we're given? This is supposed to be an innocent Superman, but he's not naive enough to think that they won't actually kill people because he's met them before, right?
He's just not asking questions about that.
Right.
Take care of it as you will.
Right. And then like we're led to believe he doesn't kill people, but he does break a clone's arm and chuck him into a black hole.
I'm sure that clone will be back, but yes.
Well, right. And so like, yeah, maybe that's Bizarro, maybe it's something else, but but you don't know that. And like, does he know when he chucked him into that black hole? He's like, he'll be fine. I know. I guess Superman maybe has advanced degrees in physics, but I think he wouldn't necessarily know it. And again, the audience, this is interesting to me. Like they just don't care that Superman might have killed this guy. It doesn't matter at all. It's not presented that way. There's no moment that's taken to explore the issue. And then the other one is, one of the scenes visually I love the most is near the end when all those flying goons are attacking him and he spins around using his heat vision and like drops them all. You're like, they fell out of the sky after being hit by heat vision and no one died. So again, like this is a Superman. He also punches a guy and you see the teeth fly towards the camera. This is a Superman from that moment. We know like he is very skilled using his powers to punch a human with a level of force that only knocks their teeth out, but does not punch through their head. And again, hits people with heat vision very quickly, so much so that they just fall, I don't know, the right speed to then only be slightly injured. And this is where you're like, well, okay, I guess. Suspicious, but maybe.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always... Maybe these are things you shouldn't notice in a movie, but like there was so much destruction of Metropolis in this movie.
No, there wasn't.
And I just kept thinking... like, this is like 30, 40 9/11s, right? And just like the debris and the dust and people are going to die. Like, people are going to die a lot. The people of Metropolis really don't run when there's like calamity. It was very odd. There'd be a building falling and it's like, the fight's been going on for an hour and a half and you guys are still just there? You know, you should, you should be fleeing, you know?
So now we're into the problems. And so, again, Zack Snyder, Man of Steel, got tons of criticism for Metropolis being destroyed.
But he dealt with it very well in Batman vs.
Yes,
Superman.
he did.
That was amazing.
To me, it actually was awkward in Batman vs. Superman. Okay, they specifically wrote, this place is abandoned, like more than once to show that people weren't getting harmed. And I was more forgiving where Man of Steel Superman, he is like Superman for the first time. Pretty much when that is happening. He does not necessarily... Absolutely. He's learning on the job, so to speak. And should there have been a more like, I have to stop Zod at all costs and I'm sorry about these people? Maybe they could have stuck in a line. But in this one, the James Gunn, and this is, I won't say just a Marvel thing, but a more common thing, we're just led to believe no one dies. Yeah. We're led to believe there's a fabric ripping black hole like thing. This is going through, tearing the city apart, and buildings are falling over like dominoes. All right. But no one is dying because they evacuated a large city in what, an hour, 2 hours?
But there's still people everywhere.
Well, yes and no, right? So there's sort of still people, but most of them are somehow out of the picture. And no one's in all those buildings. And then, as you said, like a building's falling over. He stops the building as opposed to pushing the woman in the car out of the way. That makes no sense. It makes a nice moment. He looks in the dust.
That was cute.
He looks great in the dust. But like buildings do not, their pressure, their fulcrum, I guess I say, is not where you can just hold them in the middle of the side of a building. So that's when you're thinking like, okay. And then of course at the end, the city is somehow just put back together with seemingly no major damage. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, of course the city was torn apart. Of course, as you said, it's like multiple 9/11s. Of course, it's very similar to Man of Steel. And of course, many, many people would have died. But we're just led to believe they didn't. And this is is this real? No, it's not. Is it what people want? Clearly, this is what people want, especially from a Superman movie. And this is where I'm like, well, I kind of would prefer something more realistic. It's okay that in a world of superpowered beings, when they have superpowered fights, like Superman did at the beginning with Ultraman, like they're actually fighting in the sky. I just looked at this again. And then he gets slammed to the concrete. All right. But it only somehow hurts the concrete, not the circle of humans that are very close. And it's like, when Superman and Zod fought in the sky, I think that was more realistic. When you punch a very powerful being through the sky, they might hit a building. And if you slam on the ground, it's going to cause more damage. But this is, again, not what people wanted. Now, I think it's a bit more realistic to do it the other way. I can see both sides. Segueing a bit, talking about some other characters. Lex Luthor, I thought was great. I thought it was a great portrayal by Nicholas Hoult. I very much liked the source material. Like, by the way, All-Star Superman was some of the source material for this movie. While it is a decent comic book, I will admit that I found the animated movie much easier to follow. There are some parts I'm like, what's actually going on? But I think the animated movie, All-Star Superman, is one of the best animated Superman movies. And the portrayal of Clark as like larger oafish very much looks like Cornsweat in this movie. The portrayal of Lex Luthor, also somewhat similar. So I highly recommend also Superman on its own, but because I like that, it makes sense that I would like this too. So Lex seemed, again, generally good. I understand the motivations. He hates the Superman for existing. This makes sense to me. Before I turn it to Adam, I do think, again, like this is what movie makers can get away with. So Superman is not going to punch Lex, right? That goes against Superman's character. Yeah. But it's fine for Krypto to come in and beat up Lex. Yes. And again, as he's cutesy, why not? Be like, a superpowered dog would easily kill Lex Luthor. Absolutely. Like, clearly. But he somehow, again, just knows the right amount to harm him. Like, well, all right, fine. I mean, you get to punch the villain without punching the villain is how I saw it.
Yeah, so I liked the Lex portrayal in this movie. Something that was kind of interesting is like, it's a light movie, so he is kind of like cartoon supervillain in some sense, and he does things that are like unquestionably evil. He he basically imprisons a bunch of people and wants to take over a sovereign country. And he executes someone. That was the most overt, violent thing in the whole movie. Oh, yeah. That was the only one moment of like, can I bring my kids to this? I probably still will. But yeah, that was pretty violent. But like, if you kind of peel that away at its core, he had motivations, which in a different type of movie, that wouldn't have been this movie, it would have maybe been a Zack Snyder movie, are more rational and understandable. Like, okay, he doesn't like how humanity's changed since Superman shows up and messes around with the whole balance. He has concerns about like what Superman's parents are asking him to do. Like he has legitimate fear for that. So there's maybe a version of Lex which was like, okay, I kind of get it. And even though we like Superman and we want Lex to be stopped, like there's a bit of nuance there. And I think Batman v Superman did that a bit.
Yes.
But
well, this Lex more overtly hates Superman for
Yes.
like being who he is, so to speak,
Yep.
being better than Lex. I mean, now I can't remember the details of the movie, but I know in All-Star Superman, it's very much Lex has worked very hard to make himself like smart
Yeah.
and physically capable,
Yeah.
and it doesn't count in a way
Yeah.
because Superman just gets all the attention, and he
Yeah.
thinks it's just like fundamentally unfair.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's a fair motivation for this character who is again like all sorts of evil in the right ways, in my opinion.
I agree.
Somewhat of a Lex adjacent topic, his partner or girlfriend, which then becomes Jimmy Olsen's pseudo reluctant love interest, so to speak. I thought that was kind of fine. This sort of stereotypically flighty woman ends up being the person who really saves the day because she provides all this evidence. I didn't really like the Jimmy Olsen subplot with her, only because it seemed more like something you'd see in an 80s movie. Where it's like, oh, the guy is like reluctant to be with the woman who really likes him, and he's totally using her. And she, like, it's almost like her feelings of sincere interest in him are played to comedic effect. And that seems a little cruel in what is supposed to be like a playful light movie.
Mm-hmm. It was a bit odd. I'm kind of like, what's Jimmy doing right? Like, what's his appeal?
Well, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but they just set it up that way. That's how I see it.
I saw an interview with the actress where she kind of said, like, maybe because he's the one guy who turns her down, that she kind of finds that. And I don't understand enough about the psychology of women.
But it
to
doesn't
know if that
explain
makes
like
sense.
the several other women in the movie who are so into
yeah.
him, right? Like they really made it a theme.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. As for his parents, I think they were fine. I thought that little speech between him and his father, that was great, generally speaking. But I think like goes to a theme that I thought the movie was kind of overstuffed. I wanted more time with the parents.
Yeah.
I wanted more time in the Daily Planet. I wanted more time with Lois. Like, it is a Superman movie, but like, how often is Superman actually with Lois? And, you know, he actually doesn't save her once.
Well, because it's not an origin story, you lose your opportunity to do a lot of those establishing moments, I think.
I think you're right in some ways, though. Like, as someone said, like, James Gunn can't help but make an ensemble movie. And there are lots and lots of people here. Like there's like 4 or 5 villains. There's at least 6 to 8 superheroes. And there could have been a world where there's like 2 to 3 villains and 2 to 3 heroes. But that's not what this is. And so there's just less screen time. Like Perry White is like 4 words in the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's kind of there. Like it's okay to show me what this is. And similarly with the parents, they're kind of played as like old people who are not that connected. Like they call him once. They don't know how to use the phone. He doesn't seem that caring or interested in them. Again, I was like, Superman can easily fly back. It's not that far. Like he flies really fast, right? So that seemed really weird to me, and that's why near the end, you know, spoiler here again, this whole conversation is spoilers, but at the end, it shows that like his Earth parents are what brought him like solace and hope and optimism and so on. Like, and of course, I'm like, well, who filmed all this, right? Like, there's all these videos playing around of all his childhood moments. Like, when did this happen? And so I can sort of understand this emotional moment, but because I didn't connect as much with his relation with his parents because we barely saw it, it was just assumed that, of course, your childhood memories with your parents were all good, but I wasn't given enough. And then, again, I couldn't help but have the contrast here with Man of Steel. It's really hard to beat Kevin Costner and Diane Lane. They chose to hire actors for this Superman movie with James Gunn that are perfectly fine, but it's not like they're as well known or have like the gravitas or experience of, you know, Kevin Costner, Diane Lane, Russell Crowe, Michael Shannon. Like, it's really like they chose to stack the deck. Lawrence Fishburne, you know, even Amy Adams. And so I just thought like, yeah, I think I like Kevin Costner and Diane Lane just more as parents. Again, but as Adam said, there's more time spent with them.
Yes.
You get to understand their motivations more. They care about their child in certain ways. But these parents, I kind of thought they were just there versus Superman's birth parents should be, I don't know, like paragons in some way.
Yeah, like that's the reason for which Superman has superpowers because he comes from Krypton, and he has super morality because of his upbringing, because of his parents, and because of growing up in Kansas.
Yes, like they're supposed to be very, very good people versus they seem kind of just normal people, and that's where maybe I wanted more. And similarly, I understand the move to say the Kryptonian parents are like, you know, evil or world dominators or jerks, which has appeared in other Superman iterations, but it's not the version I like. I kind of like the, look, I was the scientist. I tried to warn my own people. I couldn't. And so I'm saving my only son and I'm giving him a hopeful, and hopefully he can help the people of the world. Like, this is a much better versus like, Kryptonians are completely jerks. Like, well, that's, I mean, again, this is supposed to be a hopeful, optimistic movie, and they really chose to make that negative. And I thought, well, I guess you needed the contrast, because then he needed to do it's not because what was destined for me, but I make my own choices move.
Sure.
But I thought, well, you can kind of make your own choices also, and them not be jerks.
Yeah, and one aspect of that I thought was not super great. So Superman is a positive immigrant story, and I think this has been touched on in a lot of other Superman media. There's a scene in Smallville about that. Superman goes to Earth. He embodies all the best things about the culture which surrounds him, and he does amazing things. It's a great story. His parents are terrible, and they want him to like basically conquer and like replace the people of Earth, which is kind of close to like a lot of the negative stereotypes about immigrants that people have. So I don't think that was intended, because he pushes against it, and he is the character we're supposed to look up to. But like, I just didn't
I think that's a great point. Yeah, the whole political controversy with Superman an immigrant or not, this is just ridiculous to me. Superman is clearly like the most immigrant. If you're like literally an alien from another world, I don't know what people are looking at. I'm from Kansas, American's apple pie. Like, there is this line, but you're fundamentally an alien. So I think people who say he's not, it just makes no sense to me. They're coming at it from obviously a different political perspective. I was watching some analysis about like Superman is like the ultimate immigrant story, where like he has to act in certain ways, and he has to hold himself back in certain ways, and he may be arrested because people don't understand what he's doing. And so they're drawing a lot of the parallels. I'm like, well, some of those make sense, some of them less so. But I just thought, you can really sort of lean into this, where if you're the fish out of water, there's more scrutiny. You might have to act differently in all sorts of ways.
He's subject to xenophobia from the people that he's trying to help.
Of course.
Absolutely.
And so, I thought that was an interesting component, but I know he's clearly an immigrant, right?
Absolutely.
And similarly, like, is he there to stop a war, and what is the war? Like, well, again, Superman, the character, doesn't want people to die, so he's going to try to stop a war. Like, that's so obvious.
Well, Clark's responses in that interview are very basic.
Yes.
Like, we're going to kill people. Yes. Like, it's just that simple to him.
And this is where, like, again, like, can you go back to 1938, right? There's a line, I think it was in Batman versus Superman, where Lawrence Fishburne is talking to Clark Kent. He's like, it's not 1938, Kent, right? Not out there, not in here. Like, papers don't cost a nickel. And it's just like highlighting that it's not the same world we're in. And now, even from 2013, when Man of Steel came out, the information environment's changed, social media has changed, polarization has changed. And so the fact that, again, Superman's been here on Earth 3 years and hasn't been more aware of violent conflict in the world, again, it could be like a wonderful world where there's not much violent conflict, but that seems very unlikely. I also think on that Lex is making a real estate play, which of course is from 1978 Superman, but also Superman Returns. Like, once again, Lex is looking for land. And I thought, well, is this, kind of just reusing an old plot line? But like, well, you know what? The comics always reused old plot lines. It's like, there goes that guy again, the villain who's doing the same thing, and I have to stop him week after week. And that's how that tends to go. We're told at the very beginning, Superman is the most powerful metahuman, right?
Well, so he's not really a metahuman, he's an alien, but yes.
I like you're disagreeing with me versus the text on the screen. I just say we're told, Adam. Yes. And so yes, metahumans have been around for like 300 years, so it's not new. This is not a who is Superman is confusing story, which is fine. But if he is the most powerful, I often but they totally nerfed him. I think you want to show Superman vulnerable. And so there has to be some way to have him weakened aside from kryptonite.
Sure.
And it opens with him being vulnerable. And I think I understand this, a strategic move. I actually don't have a problem with this specifically. Some people didn't like that it started in the middle and like they were confused of what's going on. I'm like, again, you can't please everyone. Sure. But if he'd done the origin again, people would have hated it because we just did the origin. We don't need to see that again.
I don't mind. I know people say that, but like if every Batman movie I see has the Wayne style, like it's fine.
I agree. I actually feel the exact same way. And also, I just rewatched Batman vs Superman. That 5 minutes with the Waynes dying and the music and the poetry, it's amazing, in my personal opinion. So he's supposed to be the most powerful metahuman, right? Which means he's far more powerful than Guy Gardner, Mr. Terrific, Hawker, right? And yet he's struggling, fighting these, I guess we'll call them enhanced humans. Because Ultraman is not, it is kind of a clone of him. Yep. So it seems like a minor incongruity here. Like there are times where he uses his powers, like when he flies really quickly through like multiple weather systems. Fantastic. absolutely fantastic. I loved it, right? And other times when he's battling people, you're like, this is what you want Superman to be. He seems powerful. He can fly fast and he flies around, he punches and so on. And that's what you want. Other times, like, why is this guy so weak, right? And I guess part of me just, it was like incongruous, right? Like certainly Superman animated series, he always got punched around through a building because he did have some action drama points.
Yes,
right.
He was less powerful in that.
You always need to, but like again, you didn't have to say he was the most powerful metahuman. You could have just not had that text there, right? You didn't, and so then it raises expectations. Like, well, wouldn't he be more capable than this? I mean, if you're fighting yourself, not necessarily, right? All that to say is that was a minor issue, and then to an earlier point I made, when they don't like to have, I don't know, like negative or more emotional moments, or at least they pass by them quickly. Like he's injured, he's bleeding. Like this is clearly a somber moment, so I'm not going to take away from that. But then the dog comes in and it enlightens it. But he lost his first battle. That's what we're told at the very beginning. There is no discussion about Superman losing his first battle. He doesn't mention it.
Yeah.
You're like, you lost your first battle in 3 years and you're the most powerful. Like maybe like, like I know a moment of I'm off my game. This concerns me. Maybe I'm more vulnerable. I feel fragile. Like, yes, he gets his solar energy boost, his vitamin D injection, so to speak. And he is not at, what is it, like, he's at 70%, whatever they say at the end. Like, oh, you're not fully up to speed. And then that's why he's weaker and that's why it makes sense later. But I thought, if I lost my first battle and I'm Superman, I don't, you could play a lot with this. There's a lot there. And it was skipped over entirely.
Yeah, it's true. Like if you're a boxer and you've won like 50 fights and then you get knocked out for the first time, you irreparably change your view of boxing.
Right. And we're led to believe it had no effect.
Yeah. Another thing I think is kind of interesting, Superman famously powered by the Earth's yellow sun. They focus the light and everything, beam it right on him. Why does Superman never take his shirt off? Like, his head's so small, his head is hands, that's all he's got. Pop the shirt off, Superman. That's what everyone wants to see.
I was like, Adam's looking for a topless Superman.
I am surprised. I don't think we see him topless.
We do not.
Henry Cavill had his shirt off in that whole movie. See that, right?
Well, right. So that's also interesting. This is like a meta point, which I wasn't going to bring up, but since you did. Yes. Corn Sweat bulked up to look like a very built farm boy versus a very lean cut, almost bodybuilder. Oh. So if he took his shirt off, he would not have looked like Henry Cavill.
Wouldn't have been.
He would have looked strong and powerful, better shape than I am, that's for sure. But it wouldn't have looked the same. Not at all.
And so it looks good in the suit.
Yeah, and again, he's still like a fit guy, just not, also, Henry Cavill, it's very hard to compare. When people are like, look, just the muscles in the suit, like, no, he looks like that when he's not wearing the suit, and you just can't have spandex on almost any human because it doesn't look right. Like, a very muscular person in spandex won't look that muscular. So I think the muscle enhancements in, like, the Man of Steel suit is fine because, again, he generally looks like that anyway. Mm-hmm. But you're right, not once. And so there's, again, this is more of a family movie.
Absolutely.
There's less sexiness, which not that Superman has to be sexy, but that's a choice that was made when, of course, Man of Steel, like the first appearance, he rips a door open while being on fire and topless. Because I was thinking, again, movies are a moment, sort of snapshot in time that, like, this is like, oh, you want something like Wolverine? Here you go. Yeah, he's got a beard. Right. He's hairy. He's muscular. He's on fire. This is a badass move, right? Similarly, there's the lens flares, which are popular at the time. There's like destroying of buildings, like Transformers are popular at the time. There's the spaceship in the sky obliterating a city, which is popular at the time. So yeah, movies can't help but be a bit of their moment. But I did think, this Superman is less. Maybe that's why Lois doesn't like him as much. he's less sexy.
She only hesitates because if she saw Henry Cavill Superman, there would be no more hesitation.
Oh, that'd be starting a war online. Yes, would Lois leave Corn Sweat Superman for Henry Cavill Superman? Listeners, write in. Oh boy.
One minor character that I did like in the movie was Alan Tudyk as the robot. So he played Sonny in iRobot. So it was kind of like seeing that character in again.
Speaking of nerd lore, I just happened to see an interview with Tudyk like 2 days ago where he did not get much billing or credit for Sonny in iRobot because he said when they did test screenings, his performance was ranked higher than Will Smith's.
Oh, no.
So they just like downplayed the whole thing. Like he didn't do press with them. He just wasn't. And people didn't even know that he did it for the most part. He's like, people are like, oh, you did that? Like, yeah. It's like, well, that's a sad way that Hollywood actually works.
Well, the biggest meme that still circulates related to iRobot is basically Sonny upstaging
that's true.
Character.
That is. And to this point, while I do think it's kind of overstuffed, it was nice to see the robots in the Fortress of Solitude. Yeah. It was nice to see Metamorpho. Like, again, most people have never heard of this character. And I thought, like, okay, great. And his like, sort of role was fine. The arc was good. Like, he convinced with Lex. because he's forced to, and then he realizes what's right and so on. And then Mr. Terrific, I don't know if I've ever seen.
I didn't know that character at all.
No, me either. And like, oh, that's a cool character, right? And then
he was a lot like Robotnik from the Sonic movies. I think
I don't know that
but
well enough.
He basically has all these eggs that he, because Eggman, and he does very similar.
I mean, certainly that is the one overt, like, this is a James Gunn scene, because there's like a needle drop, there's some music playing, there's people being in a battle in slow motion, and one character is like not involved, the other one is like, sure, why not? That's a Gunnism, and it was entertaining, and I liked it. Sure, why not?
Yeah, I like James Gunn as a director, and I like James Gunn when he's being very James Gunn, and that's usually what it is, right? It's music, and it's all that.
Because he's very extensively knowledgeable in music. Well, since we mentioned, though, I don't think the music in Superman was that great. It was fine. Like, that main theme, the reinterpretation, fantastic. And there's other moments where, like, I really like this here. But because I just saw it again, the Hans Zimmer score for Man of Steel, like, it just, I mean, I find it very compelling. I find it more overt in terms of its impact, emotional and otherwise, and it's more present. So the punk rock song that kicks in Superman, the recent one, great. And that main theme, great. But if you ask me, like, can you think of any of the music throughout the rest of the movie? I'd be like, I don't know. I just don't know.
Whereas usually James Gunn is like, it's a playlist. Like, here's
right, exactly. And so he said he had to make a choice where it was mostly instrumental, right? Yeah. And I don't think most of that instrumental stuck, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah.
While if I think of Man of Steel, like, oh, when he flies for the first time, that's a fantastic piece of music. When he's doing something else near the end, like, that's another fantastic piece of music. And just, you know, how it flowed, right?
Sure. I thought the hair was interesting. So Superman has kind of slick hair, kind of looks like Christopher Reeve's Superman, the one we all know. And then Clark Kent has like what people refer to as broccoli hair. So all the kids these days, they get perms. And I think it's because of Patrick Mahomes, who's a popular football player. He's biracial, so he's got curly hair.
Okay.
And that became a popular hairstyle. And if you look around, if you see kids under 25, they all have these perms.
I haven't noticed that. Now, I think it was an interview with Cornsweat himself who said that's just what his hair is. So in Superman, like, he had to grow his hair a certain length for the Superman hair. And then if you don't style it like for the Superman haircut, you just get his messy, curly-ish hair.
So that may just be a coincidence.
I think so.
That it's a popular hairstyle of the moment, because I do find like Clark Kent's 30, he's a little too old to be doing broccoli hair.
Yeah, I think you're right. This is also tricky. Like, is he 30? How old is he? Superman's, like, as someone said, is perpetually in his early 30s. Like, that's the kind of character. He's always in his early 30s. And you're thinking, like, but does this guy look like he's in his early 30s? Late 20s, right? Because the actor's in his late 20s, and so is Lois. Which also, like, isn't Lois like a star reporter? Again, usually it's hard to be a star reporter in your mid to late 20s, especially nowadays. Minor nitpick. So when Lois is saving Superman, takes him to his parents, because then it has the nice parent scene. Fly him to somewhere on Earth with sunshine, right? Like, because again, Lois knows him, and this isn't. This is like, well, the realism, you know, ruins things sometimes because you want the moment with the parents. But there is a world where he is so important. Like, he's like the only one who can save the day.
Yes.
And like, there's a lot of places on Earth you can get to in your little spaceship that can have sunlight. Even just go to space. You do that. And it's like, well, he'll just nap. He'll just nap in his bed.
In Returns, I think he goes up into space, or no, it's in Man of Steel. He goes up into space to really get the.
He does several of them. He uses the sunshine. Yeah, it was. I mean, since you just said it, and I want to talk about, there's a great scene in Man of Steel when he's talking with Russell Crowe, his alien intelligence father, the replica, on the ship, and before they talk, he says, "Bash that panel." So his father's telling him to break the wall, like literally, so then sunlight pours in. Because when we talk, those seconds matter, so you can recharge more. It doesn't say this out loud. And then you can go help people. And of course, there's that great line. He's like, look, he's like, Lois. He's like, you can save her. You can save all of them. You're like, yes. And then he pushes off godlike, right? And then goes down and saves Lois. But yeah, that's, if we're going with the sunlight theme, it's really important that you don't fly to Kansas at night. I mean, like, it's a spaceship, right? Yeah, that's definitely a nitpick. So there's a speech which everyone really loves, and I somewhat love. I'm conflicted. Near the end, when he's talking to Lex, right? He's like, I wake up every day, even though I don't know what I'm doing, I try my best, and I make mistakes all the time. And like, that's what makes me human. Like, that's the part of me, right? I'm as human as everyone else. And I'm thinking, oh, but you're not. You're not at all. So there's a Superman, because he was raised in Kansas, I want him to have like the humanity of helping people. Yeah. But to pretend he's human is like ridiculous, and it's almost insulting. Like, you're making mistakes. You're also, as you know, in Batman vs Superman, like, he could burn the whole place down if he wants to. He's so powerful. It seems weird to say, I'm just like you as I lift a building.
Well, it's a bit of a contradiction, right? So he claims to struggle, and we want to think that he does struggle to come to the right moral choices, but he makes simple moral decisions in the film. He just always does the right thing. Right.
Yes.
Well, he's not presented with complex moral questions.
He does not
He just takes
reveal.
the right
Yes,
choice.
he does not reveal inner moral conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think that's it's. I think the framing for this Superman, which is a good one, which is in a way more quote unquote who Superman is that it's an opportunity to help people. It is not a burden. And I think that's what they tried to do.
Okay.
And that's why he doesn't not sort of begrudge his job.
Yes.
And I think that is a good way to interpret Superman. I agree with this. That is my version of Superman, where he does not like tire of helping people. He again wants to help his enemies. He does not see it as bad.
As opposed to Batman, who considers it a burden, and it's like he has to do it because he's troubled. And
well, yeah, I mean, Batman, whether he's helping people or just wants to punch people in the face. Listeners, if you like this, we can talk about Batman another time. So, yes. But I think what's interesting, though, is that, again, Zack Snyder's Superman got lots of flack for sort of being a bit conflicted about this. Yeah. But even this one, when Superman's Kryptonian parents are revealed to be problematic, to say the least.
Terrible.
Terrible people. People are turning on him quite quickly. Someone throws a can at his head, which, by the way, in a previous version, he blinked and they edited that out. Oh. So there's a new version in the theatrical cut. He does not blink anymore because people thought, well, why would he blink? He's not going to flinch, right? And someone said, well, it's the emotional reaction to the attack, right? And then you see, like, even that Superman is conflicted because things aren't so simple. And I think, like, it's okay. Like, to me, again, for kids' movie, you don't need it, but again, I'm happy both movies exist, but that's why I'm happy for, like, okay, something can be for adults too. Like, of course there's a moral conflict. Of course, when he does anything, you can't just save the squirrel in isolation. It doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. You can't hold up the foot of one kaiju-like creature to blow a dog out of the way, which is super cute, without thinking, like, is some other human dying somewhere? Like, maybe, right? Or when it falls over, like, did this not have an effect? Or, he's also Superman. He's super capable. Could he not have done both things and at least gone to the war zone after to meet the kid who was holding up the flag? This seemed like a kind of like a weird missed opportunity. Yeah. Like, they were calling out for Superman, not the Justice Gang. Whoever those guys are, even though it was, again, played for very good comedic effect, and Nathan Fillion did a fantastic job. But, like, oh, by the way, like, you show up after and, like, hey, child, how are you doing? I came to help you. And, like, there's still, again, that's the other problem with the world. There's almost always more to be done. Yeah. There's almost always something to be done. And sadly, he's almost always letting someone die. Like, that is not a fun kids movie.
Yeah, Superman intermediate power source.
Yes, for those who know, the Saturday morning breakfast cereal comic is a great one. Maybe we should put in the show notes if there are already notes. Yeah. So, I mean, we've been going on quite some time now. Maybe it's 45 minutes to an hour if you stayed with us this long. While it would be tempting to go another hour talking about Man of Steel in comparison, we won't do that today, even though it's very tempting. I'll just say I'm happy both movies exist. I've seen it, the Superman movie by James Gunn. I want to see it again. It doesn't quite it's not quite exactly my version of Superman, but almost nothing really is. And that's the beauty of the world too. Like, different people are going to have different artistic interpretations. It's highly unlikely someone's going to provide exactly what you want it to be. Sure. And sort of taking a step back, isn't it nice that I got to see another iteration? Like, again, a high production value, competent people delivering a product which is another iteration of the character, and there'll be more in the future. And, depending how AI goes, in maybe 20 years, you get to make your own.
That's fair. Yeah, no, I like the movie. I like Henry Cavill's Superman. It's unfortunate that he didn't follow through with this version, but that's fine. It's a different era. It's a new Superman movie. I hope they make a couple more.
Yes. And maybe kids will be more inclined versus losing out to Thor and Iron Man. I mean, come on. Well, thanks for joining us, listeners. Love to hear your thoughts if you have any. And until next time, think better, act better.
Peace out, Q-Boys.
For show notes or to discuss this episode, visit our Facebook page and website at trcpodcast.com. For general inquiries or to send a topic or parody suggestion, email info@trcpodcast.com. Help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes and liking us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at TRC_podcast.
Outtakes. Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Reality Check, the weekly...
Weekly?
Not for 7 years.
You guys doing a weekly show now? Holy...
Back, let's go. Yeah, we're talking about Severance, we're talking about Dark Matter, we're talking about Sailor Moon. Just cranking them out now. All right, sorry. Every time, by the way, I have to stop myself from saying weekly because it's so ingrained. All right, third time's the charm. Still no edits yet. All right. I can edit out my own there. Let's see.
Jimmy also needs huge. So,
Well, you want that in the show or no?
maybe.
Sure. Okay. Let's say it again then.